Okay, today's daf is Yoma Mem Aleph, Yoma 41. Mem Aleph from Bez, towards the top, it says Machlokas, Gufa. That's 7 lines from the top. Amar Rav Elazar, Amar Roshai, Matami Mikdash, Ashir, Vehevi Korban Ani, Lo Yatza. Reb Chaga, Amar Reb Shaya Yatza. Let's say you were Tomei, you went to the Azara, to the base of Mikdash. And you're an Ashir, and you could afford to bring the higher korban, which is a chatas, a behema, which is a chatas, vehevi korban ani, and you brought the korban of an ani, meaning which is 2 birds, lo yatza. You weren't yotzei, you're chiyah. Rechaga says you are yotzei. So we have to figure exactly what the machlokas between them is. What's the Swara of the machlokas? The Gemara asks, Meisive. The Gemara says, Monsora ani shehevi korban asher yatza, asher shehevi korban ani lo yatza. A Monsora also has a korban Olah V'yoreid. He's supposed to bring, if he's an asher, he's supposed to bring chatas and 3 animals, chatas, asham, and an olah. If he's poor, he only brings 1 animal. If he brought shehevi korban asher, if he was an ani and he brought the korban asher, he decided to spend a lot of money, a spender. Don't want to marry a spender, right? Or do you? The woman shouldn't be a spender, but the man could be a spender. The man should be a spender. That's the way it works. He spent more money, so he's yotzei. Ashir shehevi korban ani lo yatza. If he is an ashir and he brought a lesser korban, it's cheap. We don't like cheap people, right? Cheap people. It's not good for a man. It's not good for a woman. Don't be cheap. He brought a korban ani lo yatza. By Monsora, we see, according to Reb Chaga, he says that you'd be yotzei, but in this situation when Asher brought a korban ani, but Monsora, it's not true. How did Reb Chaga get around that, the difference? Because it says by the Monsora, it says Zos. Shai hasn't considered Zos. Yachi Reishanam. Yarabi Rachmana Torah. So the Gemara says, based on the psukim over there in Monsora, you see that you're yotzei. You're not yotzei. V'neilef mina. So the Gemara says, according to Reb Chaga, who says that you could be yotzei, and Ashir brings a korban ani. Why don't we learn from that, from Monsora to the korban of someone who's mitami the Mikdash? Rahman of imdalhu. It's only there. He says v'imdalhu. So what's exactly this drasha? What's v'imdalhu? What's the crux of this drasha? Where in these words do we see that it only applies by Monsora? It doesn't apply by Matami Mikdash. And the third question is, what is this lashon of Matami Mikdash the Gemara is using? Matami Mikdash. It's not the only case when you go into the Azara or the Heichal when you're Tameh. It's not the only case of an Olah V'yoreid. There's also a Shua Sa'edus. Why? And Tosas asked that question. I'm an Aleph. Why did the Gemara pick Matami Mikdash? And also, it's a funny expression, Matami Mikdash. Really, it's someone who goes to the base of Mikdash when he's Tamei. He's not Matami the base of Mikdash. Doesn't become Tamei. He's Tamei when he goes to the base of Mikdash. No, he doesn't make it Tamei. What's Matami Mikdash? I want to suggest over here that the imdalhu, the Gemara is making a differentiation between a Monsora and Matami Mikdash, someone who goes into the Mikdash when he's Tamei, the imdalhu, because you look at the psukim when it comes to Olah V'yoreid by Matami Mikdash was Aedus, the psukim there say v'imlo tasig yado. It doesn't say imdalu. By Monsora it says v'imdalu, if he's a poor person, v'lo tasig yado, and he can't afford it. Add the extra words v'imdalu. What's the difference? The difference is you can have a chakira. All those Rav Chaim fans, you love chakiras. I'll give you a chakira today. What's the pshat by a korban Olah V'yoreid? Is the pshat that really lechatchila you should be giving the maximum korban, korban of the ashir, but it's when you're an ani, you're b'diavad. The Torah allows you to do a b'diavad. Or is the pshat that they're separate korban, separate chiyuvim? It's a chiyuv of an ashir and a chiyuv of an ani, two separate chiyuvim, and an ani is not b'diavad. So when it says v'im dalu is adding extra words to tell you it's not just lo sasig yado. If it's lo sasig yado, it sounds like lechatchila is best to be an ashir, and that's the ideal korban. If he can't afford it as a b'diavad, he does the lesser korban. But it says v'im dalu by Monsora to tell you that there's two korbanos, two independent chiyuvim. There's a chiyuv of an ashir and a chiyuv of an ani, and the chiyuv of the ani is independent of the ashir. So by Monsora, an ashir who brings a korban ani, he's not going to be yotzei, according to everybody. That's the Brisa says. He's not going to be yotzei. V'im dalu is a totally separate korban. Korban of an ani is a totally separate korban. So even though he's an ashir, he's not going to be yotzei. But Rav Chaga says that if you're by Olah V'yoreid, regular Olah V'yoreid of Tumas Mikdash, so there it just says Mosasig Yado. So therefore, basically the chiyuv is really on the ashir to bring the highest korban. And b'diavad, you're yotzei, so it's not a separate chiyuv. So therefore, really, if you're an ashir and you bring the korban of an ani, you could be yotzei technically, because you're yotzei b'diavad. It's the same chiyuv. It's one chiyuv, and Rav Chaga says b'diavad you'd be yotzei. Now, so that would explain it. And then the man that was kolik on him, Rosh Shaya, by korban Olah V'yoreid of Matami Mikdash, he would hold that the imdalhu is not a direct drasha. It's not an explicit. We don't learn specifically from these words. Imdalhu. We don't learn anything extra from them. It's only according to Rav Chaga. And he would learn that in both cases, you're not yotzei because it's separate chiyuvim. The ani has a chiyuv and the ashir has his own chiyuv, two separate chiyuvim. So therefore, if the ashir brings an ani, the ashir brings a korban ani, he's not going to be yotzei. It's a separate chiyuv, the chiyuv of the ani. Now, the Rash in Nagoyim says by Monsora, it says here that an ani shehevi korban ashir yatsa. It says yatsa. It sounds like b'diavad. But the Rash says in Nagoyim, the art school brings us, for all you art school fans, that it's not only b'diavad, but it's also mitzvah and amufchar. You're giving more than you have to. But according to what we're saying now, is that it's yatsa is dafka because it's only b'diavad because it's two separate chiyuvim. And even though really the ashir is a separate chiyuv nani, but mchal masai mana, the Torah is marabe. The Torah says, Torah is marabe. L'rabos Monsora ani shivei korban ashir says Torahs marabe. Mchal masai mana says yotzei b'diavad, but it wouldn't be lechatchila. And this can answer our final question of Matami Mikdash. Why does it say Matami? Why does it pick Tumas Mikdash, and why does it say Matami Mikdash? Because Stama, the Brisa, is going according to the other man, the Umar is going according to Rav Hoshaya. He says in both places by the Monsora and also with the korban Olah V'yoreid, it's considered to be separate chiyuvim for the ani and the ashir. And therefore, if an ashir brings a korban ani, he's not going to be yotzei. And he's called the Matami Mikdash because he left. There's a residue of tuma. If you're an ashir and you're bringing korban ani, you're not yotzei at all, and for sure there's a residue of tuma because you're not yotzei at all. And even if you're an ani that brings a korban ashir, so I don't know what the halacha is exactly. By Monsora it says there's Torah's riba. It sounds like by even Rosh Hashanah would be moded by he would agree that by Tumas Mikdash, if you brought more than you had to, you brought an ani and you brought an ashir, you wouldn't be yotzei in that case. And again, that would be Tumas Mikdash, the Matami Mikdash, the residue of the Mikdash. Even if you were yotzei, it would only be b'diavad, like by Monsora. And there's a residue of tuma you're leaving in the Mikdash because it's only b'diavad.